Welcome, everybody, to an all new episode of GVN Interview. We have a very, very special guest, someone me and Joel are huge fans of. Kristian Harloff. How you doing?
Oh, good, man. I'm happy to hear that because I didn't know if you guys know who the hell I was. So I'm glad that I'm glad. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I actually, before I let Joel kind of talk a little bit, I actually started this whole concept of the media thing that I created with Geek Vibes Nation because of watching you.
Oh, man.
So this is kind of like full circle of everything. So this is awesome for me. Truly awesome for me. So Joel, you also are a huge Kristian Harloff fan.
Yeah, I can echo the same sentiments. I not grew up, but last couple of years.
I mean, man, am I that old?
Not that old. But what the thing was, like at the time, I was looking for like almost like radio for geeks, and there was not a lot of that back then at all. And the only place you could really find it was on YouTube. So the first time I heard of Kristian in the Schmoes were through AMC, and then of course Collider, and then of course I just stuck on with Schmoes, and now with the whole SEN and all that. I've been following it ever since. It's like huge fan. Huge fan.
Thank you so much. Joe, have you been to a live event in New York?
I always wanted to, but I have not.
Okay. I just saw you looked familiar, so I thought maybe we ran into each other.
Maybe you got that face. So.
maybe. You look like every guy I went to high school with.
There you go.
But that is something that I always thought was really awesome, because a lot of people forget, because it's so oversaturated now. People forget that what we're doing is something that wasn't super popular back around when Iron Man first came out. It was still, you could get made fun of for having a lunchbox with Iron Man on it, let alone anyone that was really interested in having a conversation about it. So you guys kind of really established making it cool. And then obviously you saw the evolution of it just becoming universally cool. And now there's like anyone with a microphone in front of them feels like, hey, I can talk about this stuff.
Well, it's certainly true, man. I mean, I think that's very kind of you to say, is that nobody was doing it back then. I don't know if we made it cool or not, but I appreciate that. But we like, I remember when I started doing it, because I came from conventional, like working in film and production and development and all that. And that was supposed to be like the career that I was doing while I was going after stand-up comedy. That was supposed to be the job. And then a friend of mine who was a producer and it was working for a place called Current TV. It no longer exists, but this is like 2007. And she was like, hey, we're going to try this really crazy thing with like those flip cams. And she's like, we're just watch a couple of television pilots, grab like a funny friend from the Comedy Store, that anybody you want, and just shoot yourself reviewing it and then send it in. So Ellis was around, and I said, dude, you want to like grab some pizza and some beers and like just do this stuff? And he's like, yeah, why not? So we did it, and there was like a bunch of people that did it, and we were the last one. We were the two that they chose, and then we just did that for like a year, and then we were supposed to get this whole deal. It's so funny how it comes full circle, because Mark's working for Rotten Tomatoes now, but we were supposed to have like this show for Rotten Tomatoes, and it fell through, and it just didn't happen. And the show on Current was gone, everything's gone, and we're like, well, what do we do? And my friend wasn't producing anymore. She was gone. And so Mark and I were like, let's just start a YouTube channel. This is 2008. So like you said, nobody was doing this. There was no Chris Stuckman back then. There was no Jeremy Jones. I mean, they existed, but they weren't making videos. And I think it was like Grace Randolph was making videos still. Spill.com, who is now Double Toasted, they were making reviews, but that was really it. And we started to do it, and it was a process, because like you said, like people, I remember going to friends and family, and they're like, what are you doing? You're making reviews on YouTube? Like what? Like, why did you quit your job? Like, what are you doing? Like, and so many people with that, and then, and nobody would take you seriously. Now you see people whether getting into screenings, like YouTube reviewers, like get into screenings now, like they get sent, whatever it is, packages. They're interviewing people. They're going to premieres. That was not a thing when we started. They were like, you do what? Like, I remember when we started building an audience on YouTube and reaching out to people out there, like, hey, can we go to screeners? Like, what publication do you write for? I'm like, make videos on a YouTube channel called Schmoes. No. And they're like, yeah, no, don't lose this number. And that's really and it just, and we had to like just work work. And we finally got into one. And once we got into one, the first one we ever went to was True Grit. It's the first one we ever got into. And Mark and I are sitting there. We look over and Leonard Maltin is sitting there, and we're like, we do not belong here. And like that type of stuff, it just kept happening. And then I think it was like a year later, we became like, and now everybody and their mother is certified on Rotten Tomatoes, but we were the first YouTubers to get certified. So it was hard. But it was fun, and it was worth it, because we put in the blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because like now I could tell my mom, like, hey, I'm doing an interview with Kristian Harloff, and like it's like, oh, okay, like great. 12, 13 years ago, it would be like, who? Like what?
right.
What? So like you said, it all kind of comes full circle now to where it's just like it's acceptable now. It's great. And through this whole process, you created something that, in my mind, I value greater than Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Price is Right. Like when people talk the idea of game shows and whatnot, I'm just like, well, Movie Trivia Schmoedown that goes at the top, and then it's just literally everything else, because it's for us. Me and Joel have spent numerous times over his house trying to answer these questions and feeling so confident, like, all right, yes. And then you give the answer, and we're just like, how did I forget that? How did I forget blah, blah, blah was in the background of that? Like, oh, man. So kind of talk the process of creating something that is so large in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown.
Well, it was that's another one that just, I guess, came through the evolution of doing Schmoes Know, right? Because we did the other thing, and I'm glad that you guys had kind of equated the fact that the radio for movie news and that type of thing, because that was always the main goal. That's something I always wanted to do. I grew up like a massive Howard Stern fan, and always wanted to kind of create the Howard Stern show for movies, right? And that's what we did with the Schmoes Know show. And we were doing, because nobody was doing long form movie podcasts like that back then. Like, as you said, no one was doing that. And so we were on Adam Carolla. We were on there often, and one of his producers was like, why don't you guys do a podcast? And we're like, because we dumb and never thought of it. And then we did it, and it was going well. And then we went from just doing audio to then video, and then we started bringing in the crew, and that evolved. And then eventually, because that whole thing was enough to do. I mean, so many different shows. We could just talk about the evolution of that show and how we thought it was going to, after we were on Toad Hop, we thought it was going to be over. And then we were lucky enough that Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro came on as guests one time. They loved us. They were very generous and let us use their studio to film the show for a couple of years. And that is where the Schmoedown came from, because we were always testing bits. We were always testing jokes. And we were live in the last half an hour of a show. Mark and I went to this pizza place in Anaheim, and we sat down and we were like, let's do a March Madness. We had just done this competition between Christian Ruvalcaba and JTE where they played each other. It's what we actually equate to the first actual Schmoedown match we've ever done. We counted as an actual match because it was like the first one. It was the seed. And after that happened, we said, let's do a tournament. And so we did this tournament, and it was the game, as if you guys, I don't know how long you guys have been watching the show, but it was very different then than what it is now. And there's people picking out of hats. There wasn't a lot of rules. It was mayhem. It was like the Thunderdome. And then once it was successful and we did the tournament for year one, we did a teams tournament the second year. When I started working at Collider, I said this could be a good weekly show if we did it the right way and we treated it like the UFC and we treated it like WWE, where we created some big personalities inside of it. Don't mess with the game, make the game like legit, and take like the best of the best in the movie space and get somebody from IGN and have them go up against Nerdist and do press conferences and all that kind of stuff. And I pitched it to Campia, John Campia, who was running Collider at the time. And he's like, this makes all the sense in the world. Let's take it to Complex. I had a deal at Complex. Mark and I had a deal before I became any role at Collider. I had a development deal with them for Schmoes. Like I had to do X amount of movie talks and Jedi Council and this and this and this, and Schmoes Know as a brand would get X amount of dollars a month in order to do that. So when I pitched this, they said, yes, you can put this on the channel, but you've got to take it out of your money that we pay you. And I said, fine, but I own the IP. And they said, okay. And I said, great. And then we did very well. And then they wanted to do teams. They put some money in it behind the teams. And it just kind of got bigger and bigger because more people were getting excited about it. We came up with like the storylines and the back and forth. And I think the live events is really what changed it for us, because that is Mark and I come in as like performers and being able to go to New York and being able to go to Chicago in front of 1,000 people. And like that's where the show really moves. And that's why it was such a bummer. And like in January and February of 2020, we went to New York, and then we went to Atlanta, and then we were coming back. We were going to do one show a month in 2020. And then pandemic hits, and it just, like anything else in the world, just stopped. And now we're like trying to like crawl out of that, that hole that everybody's been in for years. And it's just like, we're ready for it. We're excited. We have some stuff booked, but it's been an adventure. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and luckily for you guys, unlike some other avenues of entertainment, it's a piece of entertainment people want back. Like, people want this. They really, really, really want this. We want this as fans, me and Joel. It's funny because it's like what you were saying before, to bet on yourself on something like that. And I'm glad you even said that, to be smart enough to know, like, all right, the IP comes to me. It can come out of the dollars and cents, but right. This is my creation. It's something that, people talk about in the music business about being screwed over, but never really talk about in our business. That right. is the easiest thing to get screwed over by, is someone just going, well, here's $50,000 to do this, and you're kind of just like, oh, that's okay, yeah. Right. And then they're just like, well, little does he know I own everything.
Well, but to be fair though, to those companies though, right? Because sometimes if you don't, like, there's certain times, like Dave Chappelle got screwed, right? When he was coming up and like a young comedian, oh yeah, sure, I'll sign everything. And then after he did what he did, they should have cut him a deal right away once he got big enough. They're like, come on, it's Dave Chappelle. Sure, you screwed over the young comedian because that was the deal that he signed, but let's make it work. That's one thing. But a lot of these companies, when you sign on as like an executive or anything too, and I was not at the time, it was a development. It's part of your deal is that you come in and whatever you create and whatever you're a part of while you're here, whether you came up with the creation or not, it's that company's. Right. So, but I did not come up with it while I was there, nor was I an employee, and nor was I going to give it to them when they weren't even going to pay for it. So it was like, right. That's why, now there are certain episodes that I can't take off of Collider, and that there's certain episodes that they have that they do own because they paid for them, but there are other ones that I paid for that are mine. So that's why you'll see a bunch of videos pop up sometimes on the Schmoes channel, like, oh, that's a Collider one. And then you'll see other ones that haven't seen the light of day because I don't own them.
Got you. I mean, but like you said, taking care of Chappelle, knowing that at the time it was really the biggest thing Comedy Central had. I mean, sure, South Park was pulling its numbers, but that Chappelle show was just Massive. It was everything for Comedy Central. So it's just the idea of, I'm putting food on all you guys' table. Make sure you take care of me, Right. But no, so okay, so I want to ask this, and Joe, I'm gonna pass this over to you. One of the things I love most about Movie Trivia Schmoedown, that I truly enjoy the most, is when someone wins.
Yeah.
When you say, and you're that always gets me so hype. How much fun is that for you to kind of feel in that wrestling space of really hyping this up?
It's a blast, man. It's not only wrestling, it is absolutely wrestling, but it's not only wrestling. I grew up as a boxing fan, and then that turned into MMA kind of in the early 2000s. But I'm a fan of this as much as I am the guy who created it. I'm a legit fan. So if you could be inside of my head while the matches are going on, it's just like a crazy carnival, people screaming and yelling with sometimes with party crashers and sometimes with just with flamethrowers, it's like, and so, but when I'm in the middle of it, I'm like, oh my God, who am I going to call this for right now? Because this could go either way. And my emotions when like you hear that and you're a winner, it's coming from real emotion, because in my head I'm going, oh my God, they did it. And I can't go, oh my God, holy crap. I have to go, and your winner. But that's what I'm saying through the words, you know, like, so there's been many times that I'll scream it out there because I'm like, I can't believe they just did it, or I can't believe they just blew it, or I can't believe they just came back and took it. That's what I'm saying in And Your Winner. I just can't say those words.
I got you. Joel, did you want to add something for I keep going?
I just want to, I've in all the matches I've ever watched, I would say that I gotta give credit to all the competitors, because that is not easy to do. All the credit in the world, all the studying they put in. I'm not much of a studier, so for me just to watch, to put all the effort that they do into learning everything that, especially like inner geekdom stuff. Like, I'm a geek, but Jesus Christ,
who was the craft services guy's cousin's uncle's college roommate's nephew's dog?
Right,
it's like
right.
Peppy, and they know it like right away. It's crazy.
It's Star Wars too. Like, you think you don't know until you see one of those tournaments.
No.
Holy crap,
people asked me to do that Star Wars tournament. I said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "I can bear." I said, "I'm lucky I remember my kids' names." I'm like, I'm gonna remember all these aliens' names. Like if you've ever watched my reviews or Jedi Counts or anything too, I was never the one. Oh yeah, it was bleep blah 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 blah. Who did that? You know, it was never happened. So I'm not the one with the big names and pulling out the names and all that. But I certainly it is something else to watch these guys and girls pull these names out of a hat. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. To me, I always wanted to ask you this, because I imagine this has to be something that has come up before. But I know me and Joel consider ourselves, with Marvel and DC, myself really with Star Wars, like huge fans, right?
Yeah.
So for you to ask a question, for us to be like, all right, we got this, and then get it wrong. Has there ever been moments where it was just hard to navigate egos that are kind of just like, as you're shooting it, they're like, whoa, I got like 13 wrong. I cannot have this go out.
Oh, you mean as far as, I see what you're saying. So basically, like, hey, this is my reputation, and I just blew all those things, and like, this is going to hurt my reputation. No one has ever asked me to not air the match, but there's certainly people that have been like, oh my God, I like, my reputation is going to be based on, like, I'm supposed to be this big horror expert, and I just missed like who was the main star of The Shining. Like, I just blanked. Like, people are human beings. It happens, right? And it happens under the lights. It's very different. Like, perfect. John Roca, when John Roca played Scott Mance, he was hosting a show that I used to host, and when I left, I gave it to John. It was called Far Away, and it was a Star Wars show. And John famously missed Bespin, and afterwards he's like, dude, they're gonna kill me. He's like, they're gonna murder me. I just missed Bespin. They're gonna murder me. And I'm like, it'll be a thing for a little bit, and then it'll go away. And it's the same thing. It's based off that UFC mentality, right? Like, if you get in there and like the most dominant personality just got like, when Conor McGregor gets knocked out, like, oh, he's done, it's washed up, it's over, and then he knocks someone out, he's back, he's got it back, he's back. It's the same thing. It's just mental. It's not physical, but it's the same exact thing. And so, yeah, I have to have many conversations with competitors all of the time. They're human beings. They do study. They work their tails off to get the stuff done. But yeah, there are egos involved, and there are and people want to win. It's become very competitive, and it's turned from being just ultra fun to all it was in season 1 and season 2 to this is a sport. And it's like, I'm the best. No, I'm the best. And it's that back and forth thing of what I want to do. And when we get to the level that I really want to take this thing, then it's like, you know, that's what you signed up for. That's what your contract says. You get X amount of dollars to be part of the league and do this. And it's like, that's not about fun. We're playing to see who's the best in the world at movie trivia.
Yeah, and because me and Joel were talking, we were like, man, we would love to join it. We believe, we know, especially when it comes to like Marvel or DC or Star Wars, we feel like we know our stuff. The fear is getting there, and then you ask that one question that we're just like, I don't know this,
right?
And you give the answer, and we're just like, I knew that it was right there.
It's 15 seconds, because you got 15 seconds. It's like, if I ask you right now and I go and I check back in with you in like 5 minutes, you'll pull the answer, you'll remember it. But when it's all right, you got 10 seconds, and then you hear me, because it's
Yeah.
really 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Because once you get to that 5, you're gonna hear my stupid voice going 5, 4, and that's what you hear. You don't hear the rest of your thought process just stops, unless you're like a seasoned pro, like these guys. Like Ben Bateman will just shut it off, connect inside of his head, and try to pull the answer and figure it out. Dan Merle, obviously. So, but yeah, I mean, that's part of it, and that's also why we created the FCL, which is our which will. I don't like to use the word minor league. I don't even like to use the word developmental league anymore, because next season it's going to be the premier digital league of the Schmoedown. As we get back into in studio, the FCL is going to serve as the digital league, and the MTS will be the premier in studio live event league.
Oh, nice.
We definitely want to at some point throw our hats in that, but it's nerve-wracking. It really just it's just like, woof. I can't do that.
And the fans will let you have it.
Oh yeah,
they will.
For sure. But see, that's why I was asking you before, because that has to be the worst part of it. Like, all right, I lost, no problem. I lost to some of the greatest minds in what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's when you get back to your fan base and they go, man, I listen to your reviews every week. Maybe I should listen to him. Like,
I haven't seen it. To me, that's a fair weather fan if they can't support you in that you messed up. Like, but the fans of the Schmoedown in general, right? Like they let people hear it. It's like any other sports fan. And I think the competitors sometimes, to be honest with you, I think that sometimes it's nobody likes to get criticized. Nobody likes it, especially when you're putting yourself out there and you're doing it. And if you messed up and you're already giving it to yourself, and then someone goes, "Oh, so-and-so should have known that." And you're like, "Yeah, I do." But like, I think that there's a way that a Schmoedown fan can criticize the same way a sports fan does, the same way a WWE fan does, where it's fair game. And I think a lot of times they do it. And I think a lot of times the competitors unfairly call them out and say, "Oh, this is you're attacking me," when you're not. It's criticism. And then there's other times when that competitor that feels that way is 100% right, and these people who aren't a part of it are criticizing for the absolute wrong reasons, and that can range from a great many things, and a lot of times like women get the brunt of it bad when they do. We have a male skewed audience, but we have more and more women that are playing, and a lot of times. And I don't like, well, I would have treated this person this woman the same way that I did any other. It's like, no, not really. Because you look at what you said and you're clearly calling them out because she's a woman. And that happens all of the time. But then there's other times when it's just like, oh, so-and-so should have hit that because this, and this, which I think is a fair criticism, no matter who it is.
Right. Yeah, that's still something we as a geek community have to work on, is just being more inviting.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, there's plenty of women that know way more than I do.
Hell yeah.
I mean, way more.
You ever see Laura Kelly? You ever see Laura Kelly play Star Wars?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Laura Kelly knows. I mean,
monster.
And monster. She's one of my favorite competitors. Mara Kanopik. You want to face Mara Kanopik in an Inner Geekdom match? You will go home embarrassed. Right.
I have no doubt.
Oh, I mean, those are two. Yeah. Marisol McKee, she's like one of our rising top stars. She got a shot at the title. She's the first woman to play for the singles championship since Clark Wolf in 2018. She just defeated Kevin Smith, and now she's going on to face Ethan Irwin, who just won the championship, and they're playing in this big event in September. And Marisol's no joke, and Marisol is intense. Marisol, the other day, we just released a shirt of Marisol in the store today. We have it's a Lady Justice t-shirt. She is winning over the hearts and minds of all, not even Schmoedown competitors and managers, but the fans are just. My daughter is a massive Marisol fan now, and it's just because, it does. It's these are women who just will embarrass you if you think, well, I know more than you do. No, you don't.
Right.
Not even a little bit.
No.
All right. Before we let you get out of here, I just have two more questions for you. First one is stepping out of this a little bit. Me and Joel have had this conversation numerous times. Joel is a huge movie theater fan. I would call myself very much a fair weather movie theater fan. And my question to you is, seeing what HBO Max just went through, what Disney Plus is doing, do you think the writing is starting to go onto the wall, kind of like going from regular DVDs to I can just stream it? Or do you think movie theaters once everything kind of gets fully back to normal, it'll be just as big as it was before.
I think it's a little column A, little column B. I think that the budgets on movies need to change because depending on how you want to release inside of streaming, right? Because clearly, when you have an option like HBO Max does, they set their entire slate and they said, for this year, we're going to release in theaters. And if you can go and you want to go, go. If not, you can watch it same day. Don't have to pay any premium. You just watch it. So, and you're looking at budgets that were already placed beforehand, before that plan was even played and was supposed to come into the theater, whether it's look at the Suicide Squad as an example, right? So everyone's like, oh, the Suicide Squad, it was a failure at the box office. Yeah, but what were the numbers on streaming? How many people signed up to HBO Max initially because that was part of the slate they were going to get in the year? Like, you can't go back on that now because you already announced that that's part of the slate, Dune and all these things. So I don't think HBO Max is going to continue on that route. I think that there is a way to, even though I don't love what Disney Plus does with the $30 premium thing, I think that's a way for them to say, okay, look, we'll give you it both in the same day, but you're just going to have to pay pretty much what you'd pay if you're going to go to the theater with a date, and then you can eat whatever it is, and it's and do it from home. I think that that's going to start to come into play more. I think more streaming services will do that in order to make some money, but they have to come down on their budgets, because these $200 million budgets, unless you're getting the big opening weekend all of the time, that's you're putting up a big risk. And you will have moments, you will have the big movies, the Marvel movies and certain, Star Wars movies and stuff, like when they come out to the theater, you'll still get big budgets because there's certain big box office, because there's still that audience that wants to see it. I'm with you though, man. I'm cool with my television, my surround sound, and I want to see Dune in the big screen, but so Shang-Chi, I just got invited to a screening of that. I want to see that. Like, I want to see it badly, but I turned it down because I don't want to be in the theater yet. And it's not going to be on. That one I probably will get on premium though, because I really that's like the first like I'm a big martial arts fan, and I think that's what this movie is going to be through and through, and so I'm dying to see that movie. That one I would love to see on the big screen. But yeah, to answer your question, I think by doing a mixture of both, I think the business is going to change. But no, I don't think theaters will go away. But no, I think that strategy needs to change, and I think smaller movies have now found a home on streaming, because it was back in the, you can't make independent films because nobody will go see them. Millions of people can find your movie now on Netflix, and that wasn't the case. It was some small theater, you didn't get enough distribution, nobody saw it.
Yep.
Now, that's why Scorsese keeps going to Netflix, because when he puts out Silence, nobody sees it. Beautiful movie. And he puts Irishman in and gets nominated for an Oscar.
Yep. I do think you just kind of have to adapt with the times. I just saw something yesterday or today of I think Warner in theaters have the deal of 45 days it lives in the theater.
Yeah.
To me, yeah, that works. Because to me, if you're telling me it's 45 days in the theater and then you'll drop it on your streaming service, I can wait the 45 days.
Yeah, it's not like you don't have enough to watch. You can find things to watch leading up to it, and then by the time it comes out, like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, I mean, look, Suicide Squad is one that I'm still like, people are now, the fans are starting to get on me about it, because they're like, you have access to it, dude, just watch it. But I'm like, I'm so knee deep in The Sopranos right now, I can't do it.
Sopranos is the best.
No, I mean, I love that mainly because it's the idea of, remember when it was just like, man, all right, this movie came out, you have to wait like a year for it to come on HBO. To watch it at home, or the 3, 4, 5 months for it to come out on DVD. Let's skip all that. Let's get right to it. It spent 45 days, drop it on HBO Max or Disney Plus, and I can do it. I personally paid the $30 for Black Widow. I did not go to the theater. So, to me, I have it now. I don't have to worry about waiting.
Right.
For it.
You unlocked it and you can watch it if you want to go back to do it. I see. That's why I think that strategy could work in the long run, because people are still going to be hesitant to go back to the theaters for a little bit. Plus, there's certain movies that I just think, well, if I'm going to spend that kind of money to go to the theater, like, I want it's got to be that big experience. I think that theater movies now, and I know the film purists, like, every movie should be in a theater. And it's like, I don't feel that way anymore. I think that we've evolved so much with the technology that watching certain things at home are just as fun as watching them in the theater. But there's certain moments and there's certain movies that just feel right in the theater, and because of that, I don't think it'll ever go away. Like I want to see. Mandalorian is when that comes back. I want to see that on the big screen, even if they screened it. Like if they screened it at one of the theaters and said, "Hey, we're gonna for 2 nights or 3 nights, we're gonna screen the whole series." I'd go back and I'd watch it in the theater because that's how cinematic I think that show is.
100%. Speaking of, last question before you get out of here. Knowing how big of a Star Wars fan you are, myself also, do you kind of feel like all the, Bad Batch, Mandalorian, Book of Boba, we got Obi-Wan coming. Do you feel like it's safe for Kathleen and that crew to just take a break from the aspect of movies, like a significant break, allow the shows to reinvigorate the love for Star Wars? Mainly because that last series was so divided.
I'm with you. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what they're doing. I think that, remember all the streaming stuff, the way that it played, it just kind of, it started to evolve over the last couple of years when Netflix was just got a lock on it. And then everyone else is like, well, we should start doing this, because Obi-Wan is like one of the most anticipated series coming out. That was a movie. That was going to be a film. There was a script done. It was locked in. Don't let anyone else tell you different. There was a finished script, and they were going to go in. They had a director involved, everything. And then they got scared because of Solo, which I don't think was the reason to get scared on that. It's totally different circumstances of why they got scared. But I do think it was a happy accident, because it's going to play so much better panning out in this, what they've been able to do in Disney Plus, because they have a different team and they were able to, like, for me, and I got so much crap for this, but nobody gives me crap for it anymore, but I got so much crap for this when episode 9 was coming out and they said, how excited are you? I said, I'm not as excited for episode. I said, sure, I want to see it in the theater, but I'm way more excited for Mandalorian. And people are like, you're crazy. You want to see a TV show over a movie? I'm like, way more, because you can live with these characters for an hour or 45 minutes, whatever it is, every week. And if you don't like that episode, you don't have to wait 2 or 3 years and get into angry Twitter fights about it for 2 or 3 years. You can just say, okay, what's next week's episode going to be? Oh, I like that one a lot better. Okay, good. Oh, that makes sense. And it plays for a full narrative of the 8 to 10 episodes or whatever it is. And you build and you get attached. So like Din Djarin's one of my favorite characters. My Star Wars watching right now, of like my favorite, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite. My second favorite is New Hope, and my third is The Mandalorian season 2, and then 4 is Mandalorian season 1. And then the list goes on and on after that. But I mean, I definitely, and Return of the Jedi and all that. But because of what they were able to do in those characters, I'm all in on television. Like to me, if they were like, you only get television for Star Wars for the rest of your life, or you get movies, what would you take? Throw the movies in a can. There's too many problems involved, and it's too expensive. And you don't get so much casting, and the directors are really putting themselves on the line with it, because I think there's more of a collective effort in the television process. Like if you go and you look at what they've done in the gallery series for Mandalorian, and you look at how connected that whole crew was, from the production team, the writers, all of the directors, and connecting to Favreau and Filoni. It was a locked in team. When it's been documented and not taking shots at anybody, it's like, okay, JJ, you do your movie however you want. Okay, you're done with yours. Ryan, you do your movie however you want. Now, Colin, nah, we don't like your movie. JJ, want to come back? All right, do it. Yeah, but you don't have to listen to anything that they did on the last one. And it's like, okay, fine. And there's no narrative. There's no collective thought process. There's no synergy. And there's more synergy in television, and it's clearly proven that way. But I will say, Patty Jenkins' movie, I'm excited for, because it's a Rogue Squadron movie. It's a Top Gun in space, and there's no one you're really going to be super attached to and say, oh, I hope this happens and that happens. It's just a fun shove popcorn in your face Star Wars movie, and you have all the other stories that you can lock into at home. This is just, let's go watch people in X-Wings fighting for 2 hours, at least what I think it's going to be. And that I love for movies. Give me one-offs, give me space adventures, give me that. Great. I don't need trilogies ever again. I don't need any of that stuff. Like, I got that in television right now.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I know for that, I was hoping Hera would be the main character for that.
Yeah.
Because that would be a lot of fun. The same way I've been getting a whole bunch of crap about it, but I really do think you can't do the Acolyte without having Plagueis somewhere in there. I've been saying it for.
I don't know why you've been getting crap about that. It makes sense.
It takes place in his timeline, and I'm like, well, why would he be there? There's no one more powerful than him at the moment of when that show is supposed to be taking place. So
yeah, it just depends. It just depends on for him what, like, if they go in the book, you know, because the book's not canon, and the species is he's immune. And I don't know if I would love for them to use him to be immune, but they might make him human if they decide to do that. So then I don't know how it fits into the time period and stuff. But because it's what is it, like 40 years before Phantom Menace or something?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Something like that. So it absolutely. I mean, he'd be around, and it is about the Sith, like in the lurches and in the background. Like, and at least that's what they say it is, the dark side. And because that's what they were doing. The Jedi are running around like just arrogant, like, yeah, we're the king of the castle. Yeah, exactly. And now to see that happen, like Acolyte, I am very excited for, because like the Darth Bane novels and the Plagueis novels, that's like my shit. Like, that's the stuff that I love. And I want them to do more of that, and I want them to go a little bit more darker. That's what television also can do. Mandalorian had some darker episodes, and it wasn't. So that's I 100% prefer television in the narrative that they've been in, because it also looks good. Had it been on like ABC or something that they were supposed to do, like, so remember in 2005, they were doing a TV show, and there's over 100 scripts that they still have. And I think there's footage that you can see of it, the test footage on YouTube. But they were going to do a series on ABC, and I was terrified of that show. I was terrified of what that was going to be. Yeah.
No, I mean, that was how I felt when they were saying TNT wanted to do Titans. I was just like, I don't know. And then you see HBO Max do it, and you're just like, "Oof, I'm glad you waited." Like, I'm really glad.
That's right. That's right. And that's because the options, like in 2005 when George Lucas was going to do it, he didn't have a lot of options. Right. I mean, HBO was out there, but there wasn't a lot of options to do it. And now you throw a rock and you can find a streaming service that'll be good for you to do that. You can actually. That's why network television doesn't, like, their main stuff, whatever, and it's been years for reality. Well, it's reality TV that's why Bachelor still is crushing, because that's what people go there now for. Like, I'm not going to go watch scripted series on network television. I mean, maybe one or two will slip through the cracks, but there's too many restrictions. There's too many, like, you know, because of what they need to do. And now it's even harder on network television, because the number you need to hit on network television, as opposed to what you have to hit on streaming. Why would you bother taking your show to network? The money up front, but it's too hard to hold.
100%, especially when you take breaks, and then you're depending on people to remember that you went on break and then come back. Right. Just drop it on streaming, where they either get it once or it's just weekly, you know?
Yeah.
But Kristian, we want to thank you so much for sitting down with us. This was as much fun as I imagined it would be.
Thank you for pretending to know who I was.
This whole GVN behind me probably wouldn't exist without knowing.
Thanks, man. So thank you, man. I appreciate it. Man.
Absolutely. Here's to hoping we talk again sometime soon.
Yeah.
And definitely seeing how we can throw our hat into the ring of Schmoedown for sure.
100%. And if you guys, so we're gonna be in New York on October 9th. So if you guys are able to make it, we'll be there October 9th. It's gonna be an undercard for one of the tournament. It'll be round 2 of the tournament, the singles tournament, 32-person tournament. That'll be round 2, the Sweet 16, if you will. We'll be playing inside of that. At least one of those matches, and then the singles title will be on the line in the main event. So if anybody's able to make it, if you guys have, I'm assuming a lot of East Coast listeners as well. So come and check it out on October 9th. You can get tickets at theschmoedownlive.com.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be there. Joel, that's around New York Comic Con, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Then yeah. Yep. All right. Yeah, we're in there then.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Everyone, make sure you guys are tuning in to Movie Trivia Schmoedown. I don't know why that just
happens all the time.
I just tongue twisted that for no
all
reason.
The time. Yeah.
Movie Trivia Schmoedown. And thanks again, Kristian. And take care.
You got it, guys. Thank you for having me on.